This week, I want to shift the conversation a little bit, and I want to talk about prayer as energy and vibration. All right, energy and vibration. Now, if that sounds kind of woo to you, hang on, it's gonna get a little wooey. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with that today. Our friend Rob says it like this. He's like, "There's woo, then there's woo woo, then there's woo woo woo." You know what I'm talking about? And he talks about a proper level of woo, and I think that's sufficient for this morning. So we should brand that. That's a Rob Bell word, but I want to try to give you a proper level of woo this morning. So I'm going to tell you what prayer again. Hear me. This series, first of all, is not like we're not giving this series to persuade you to start praying. I'm be honest. I don't really care if you pray or don't pray. If you find it helpful as a helpful practice, great. Keep doing it. If it helps your own flourishing, wonderful. If it centers you, if it grounds you, you can call it what you want to. I know people in here are like, I don't call it prayer. That's got too much baggage. I call it meditation. Great. Call it whatever you want. I call mine running. It's what I do. All right. Paul, we talked about in the first week, just expanded our notion of prayer. He's like, pray without ceasing. And the contemplatives picked that up and they were like, what does that mean? Oh, it's like standing in the divine flow at all times. So prayer is much larger than just like bowing our head and closing our eyes. And so you can call it whatever you want. The point of the series is not to persuade you to start praying, or the point of the series is not to convince you that you shouldn't be praying. I say the point of the series is we're asking this question: can prayer still be a meaningful, helpful, and transformative practice for us? That's the question. As we evolve, as we grow, as we transcend, are we going to include this ancient practice? So, what I want to do today when we talk about prayer is energy and vibration. I want to read a story to you. It's found in the Bible. Then I'm going to make one little brief comment about intercession, and then I want to tell you a story. That's where the proper level of woo comes into. So I want to tell you a story that happened to me that's borderline strange. And I don't have categories for it, so it blew up the category. So I'm just going to give it to you, and then you can do with it whatever you want. My assumption is you've probably had some strange experiences in your life as well that you can't really put in categories, right? And then I just want to make one point right after that story to say this is how I understand prayer now. All right, because for the longest time, like you, I like revamped my faith, rethought through my faith, took everything down to like the nuts and bolts, and even the nuts and bolts weren't working, so I had to do all that. And as I got down there, now that I'm kind of like reconstructing things, I'm realizing, oh my goodness, prayer is not what I was told prayer was. For me, it just looks so different. And one of those ways that it looks different is it's a practice of lament for me. But then there's one other way, and it has to do with energy, and it has to do with vibration. All right, so we'll talk about that. Now, I want to read a story. This is found in Luke chapter 7. Jesus has just been teaching. He gave the sermon. You all familiar with the Sermon on the Mount? That's in Matthew. Luke's version is the Sermon on the Plain, right? So you probably heard that. So Jesus has just like done the whole Sermon on the Plain. If you're unfamiliar with that Sermon on the Mount, that's where Jesus says, turn the other cheek. That's where Jesus talks about loving your enemies. So keep that phrase in mind, loving your enemies, as we read this story, because Jesus has just talked about that. Now Luke just shifts this story right after the Sermon on the Plain. All right, so this is Luke 7. We'll pick up in verse 1. After Jesus had finished all his sayings in the hearing of the people, that was a Sermon on the Mount or Sermon on the Plain, he entered Capernaum. A centurion there had a slave whom he valued highly and who was ill and close to death. Now, let me just pause here. I hate to interrupt, but when you see that word slave, I don't have time to do a whole like lesson on first century slavery, but first century slavery, you can't make a lot of comparisons with American slavery and first century slavery. They were two completely different types of slavery. Nonetheless, they were still slavery, all right? But I want you to understand, when you read the word slave in the biblical narrative, it wasn't race-based, all right? And honestly, slavery just looked, you could have wealthy slaves, slave-owned lands and property, and they weren't even always slaves. So I'm not trying to wash it, because certainly it was still not great. There was a devalue there for sure, a dehumanization for sure, but it did look a lot different. Also, you all know this because you're all professional grads here. If you're part of Vinings Lake, you're upper tier theologians. All right. um, you can't say that without laughing. But you're like you've gotten you're there. All right. So when you read a word like that, you you go back into it and you say, oh yeah, first century, right? So think um, the evolution of human consciousness, right? Of course, we look back now and you hear the word slave and you're like, well, that's not right. Yes. Yes, that's how consciousness works. All right. So I just wanted to preface that. Verse 3. When he heard about Jesus, so you had the centurion, he had a slave who he valued highly. The slave was sick and was close to death. And then verse 3. When he heard about Jesus, he sent some Jewish elders to him, asking him to come and heal his slave. When they came to Jesus, they appealed to him earnestly, saying, he is worthy to have you do this for him, for he loves our people, and it is he who built our synagogue for us. And Jesus went with them, but when he was not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to say to him, Lord, do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy to have you come under my roof. Therefore, I did not presume to come to you. Listen to this. But only speak the word and let my servant be healed. For I also am a man set under authority. With soldiers under me, I say to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my slave, do this, and the slave does it. And when Jesus heard this, he was amazed at him. And turning to the crowd following him, he said, I tell you, not even Israel have I found such faith. And when those who had been sent returned to the house, they found the slave in good health. Okay, a couple thoughts here. First, I want to talk about this centurion for a minute because you may be unfamiliar with that phrase. A centurion was a leader in the Roman army. Remember, the Roman Empire was the global military superpower of the day, and centurion was a leader of the Roman company of 100 men. All right, so take this global military superpower; they would entrust 100 men to centurions. All right, so think Gentile, think Roman occupation, think oppressor, all right? So immediately you already have a moment in the narrative of Luke that's quite perplexing for first century people because you have a centurion, which was the Roman military, which were the oppressors, all right? And what you have is Luke showing this Roman soldier in a light that looks very appealing, all right? Apparently, this soldier had heard of Jesus, and apparently this soldier had seen maybe Jesus perform some cures, curing people and healing people, and some miracles. It's really interesting. Often soldiers would despise Jewish people and the local people as an inferior race, but this man did not, all right? He had come to love and respect the Jewish people. So this is a rare glimpse of what I would call nuance, all right? I think we have to be, I think we have to, in our society, be as nuanced as we possibly can about life. It really isn't as black and white as I think we think it is, okay? And I know our culture doesn't do us any favors coming up on an election year where it's like you've got two options. Really, really, two options. 8 billion people on the planet, and we've got two people that are about to meet death at any moment, both of them, and these are the people. You're telling me, just to be clear, 8 billion people on the planet. I don't even know how many live in just the U.S., so let's whittle it down to the U.S., all right? Of all the people in the U.S., these are the two best options we have. Now, just hang on, because we're not even there. That's not till November, but we're just I'm warming you up, okay? I'm warming you up, all right? So I feel you, all right? I feel you, yes. Yes, this is a great question, all right? I want you to know this. That is a disservice to the diversity of our country, okay? Because there is so much diversity in our country. It's one of the reasons I love living where we live. I love it. And I'm not much of a soccer guy, but I, not long ago, went to a Atlanta soccer game, all right? And I was just set back by all the diversity. And I'm literally just like, I'm so grateful I live in a city like this. I mean, we certainly are a city that just includes such a wide variety of people, and I'm so grateful for it. But I want you to know, with all of those personalities, there's nuance, right? I think all of us, if we're not careful, we're too quick to paint with such a broad brush, right? So it's easy for us to look back at this and be like, the Roman Empire, like those people. Yeah, and much of the biblical narrative is written as like jabs toward this oppressor in the New Testament, at least. But what I find really interesting is it occurred to me the other day, I wonder if there were people within the Roman Empire that actually weren't for the Roman Empire. That's called nuance. It's called not judging a book by its cover. It's called realizing everyone has their own unique story, right? Um, I I know this. I remember we went through a season where you had like the LGBTQIA crowd, and they were irate at Chick-fil-A. Are you familiar with this? I don't. Something happened there, but it was really interesting because I was looking at both, going, "Oh, well, let me introduce you." LGBTQIA plus people. By the way, let me just throw this out. Can I start preaching for a minute? Let's just getting it warmed up, but let me just throw this out, okay? Some of the most judgmental people I've met in my life are marginalized people. Now I find that really interesting. I find it interesting that some of the most exclusive individuals I've met are LGBTQIA plus individuals. I find that interesting. It's like they were not included, but then when they start getting included, they want to exclude anyone else who's not like them. You just pause here. You do realize you're doing you've become the monster you were fighting. It's getting hot in here. I'm just saying inclusion is inclusion is inclusion is inclusion. Love is love is love is love. Yeah, it gets hard when it's real, right? When it's personal. I'm saying there's nuance. Well, here's what was so interesting. I always love this because I just say LGBTQ people are like, ah. First of all, I love Chick-fil-A. Let me just say that, all right? I ate there yesterday and I ate there Friday, okay? 2 days. I am a huge fan of what they call their spicy chicken sandwich. I happen to believe it's the greatest thing on their menu. And if they were ever, just if anyone's watching, if they were ever wanting to hire someone who just out of the goodwill of their heart would give a good word to America about this sandwich. I don't believe in a lot. I'm not certain about a lot in my faith, but one thing I'm certain of, that's the greatest sandwich I've ever had. I'll tell you that. All right. And I stand on that truth. All right. I've had them all. I've had them all. There were debates about Popeye's chicken and all that stuff. Blah, blah, blah. You can debate all you want. This thing's been settled. I'm just telling you, it's settled in my heart. I don't lose sleep over it. I know the greatest chicken sandwich that I've personally ever had is a spicy chicken sandwich, Chick-fil-A. All right. And what makes it amazing is I also get an Arnold Palmer. Do you know what an Arnold Palmer is? All right. They call it a Sunjoy. Have you heard of this? All right. And it's just the most delightful experience. The both of those things together is what I call worship. All right. It's like you bring them together, you sit in the car, and you just have yourself a moment. And that's what I do. I don't go in. I'm not going to go in. There's humans in there. Why would I go inside? I don't have enough of humans. I go to curbside. Do you know what curbside is? Where they walk it out to me. All right. And I just order it on my phone. And check it out. If you order enough food on your phone, you start getting free food. This is amazing, right? And they call it free. You actually paid for it. But nonetheless, you go out there and they bring it to the car and you have your experience, all right? But I always thought this was interesting. I remember back in the day, this is a long time ago, and trust me when I tell you, they've made some strides in what I've heard, and I'm like, come on, Chick-fil-A on their way, all right? Remember, people, everyone grows at a different speed and a different capacity, and we're all at different stages of consciousness, all right? But I remember it getting really complex because I would say there'd be certain, like when at Emory, there'd be like LGBTQ people at Emory, and they were like, "We're boycotting Chick-fil-A." First of all, the only thing I remember about boycotting growing up is I grew up Southern Baptist, so all we boycotted was Disney. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like every time I turn around, my mom and dad, I was like, "Can we go to Disney World?" No, they're Satanists. I'm like, Mickey? Like honestly, like is that what we're doing? They just couldn't do it. And when we were at Emory, they're just, this was back when it was like heating up. And I would stand in a class. This is no joke, full of like LGBTQ people, and I know my social intersection. I'm fully aware of it. All right, so I come in full humility. All right, but I would just say, hey, can I introduce you to people that actually work at Chick-fil-A, that actually don't believe that are actually for love, that would actually marry you in a heartbeat. And all I'm saying is this, um, there's nuance there, right? You know there's nuance there. I don't think we can just bunch everybody. Our ego loves to do that, though, doesn't it? Like bunch everybody together. I'm that way. You'll hear me say things about evangelicals, like all evangelicals. There might be one or two good ones. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, before you just like write the whole thing off, consider that maybe there are people within that system who are actually attempting to shift and change that system. And I actually think that is how change happens. There could be. I know people that are a part of churches right now that aren't LGBTQIA affirming, but they're LGBTQIA. And I'm like, what are you doing there? And they're like, well, we're making some strides here. We're making some shifts and changes. If that's your thing in life, wonderful. I mean, that's great. That's how the world shifts. That's how we evolve. That's how we change. Power to you. It's awesome. I'm just saying in this case, what you have is it's almost like Luke is spinning it a little bit, going, well, look at there. A Roman soldier who paid for a synagogue for his Jewish friends. Also, keep in mind, Luke just placed on the lips of Jesus to love your enemies. You see what Luke is doing there? And you know what Luke is? Luke is also the writer who wrote Acts. And you know what Luke in Acts is? It's all about full inclusion of the Gentiles. And it's almost as if Luke is just spinning this thing. He's trying to confuse your head, going, blah, 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 blah. I thought I had it figured out. I had everybody placed, you ever had everybody placed in nice, like neat categories, and then someone comes and messes it all up? It's like, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. I had you in a category. This is the way it's supposed to be, and you're not fitting that category. I know. That's called humanity. We are far more complex than I think we realize. Yeah, embrace it all. This is what Luke is doing. Okay. God, this is where we get in trouble. That was a riff, and it turned into 15 minutes. Okay. What you have in this story is this Gentile soldier, and you have their slave of the Gentile soldier who is ill, close to death. And apparently, this Roman soldier had heard about Jesus, saw Jesus, and had an idea. I need to get help for this individual. I heard Jesus was around. I got to go get Jesus to see if Jesus could come and heal my friend. So he sets out to do it, and then he has a moment in the story where he doesn't feel worthy to even be in the rabbi's presence. Now if Luke is not spinning the narrative here, I hope you feel it. You have a Roman Gentile soldier who so respects this Rabbi Jesus, who was the leader of the revolution, right? That he doesn't even feel worthy to go talk to Jesus, to have Jesus come back to the house to heal this person. And then apparently this Roman soldier was in such good community with the Jews, in such good relationship with a group of people, that on behalf of the Roman soldier, he has a group of people going, hey, don't worry about it. We know you feel that way. You're fine. We'll go for you. We'll go for you. So Luke is spinning it going, wait, hold on. We're supposed to be protesting the Roman Empire. And yet within that, because it certainly is what, don't hear me wash it. It certainly is what it is, full-on oppression, yes. But somewhere within the nuance of it, within all of the complexity, you apparently had a relationship merge between one Roman soldier and a group of Jewish people, so much so that the Roman soldier, with the money he makes from Caesar, helped fund a synagogue, a local synagogue for these Jewish people. So they have a connection going, we love this guy. So they say, oh, you want Rabbi Jesus? He's one of our people. Like he's Jewish like us. We'll just go on your behalf. Because it probably wouldn't be that great for a Roman soldier to just roll up to Jesus and be like, come on. Jesus would probably be a little hesitant, like, I'm not ready to die yet. And what's interesting is you have this group of people going, now, that's called intercession, okay? Now, let me just talk briefly about this for just a minute. This is called intercession, all right? Occasionally, it happens, I will have people come to me and they will say this, Pastor, I'd love for you to pray for me. Or maybe you hear it like this. Sometimes they'll say it and not in a serious way, but they'll say it in a joking way. They'll just say something like, pray for me, got a big week this week. Oh, yeah, what's going on? Well, I got a big test. Just, man, pray I pass. All right. To which I have a lot of responses. Sometimes I'm like, I pray that you studied first. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's kind of hard to change the outcome. I think a lot about how many times we ask the divine, the universe to do things when I'm like, but you didn't do your part. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, some of y'all are really banking on some miracles. And I'm like, yeah, some of y'all are like, I'm going to buy the new car and I'm going to believe God's going to provide. I don't think that's going to work for you. I'm just going to it could, but I'm just going to throw that out there. It might get repossessed. All right. Like, there's a possibility. All right. Because you have to work. You have to have, I'm just saying there is a way to do this, right? Now, I am at a place in my life now at 42 where when someone asks me to pray for them, I consider it one of the greatest privileges of my life. Because when I hear that phrase, will you pray for me? I hear, does anyone care? When I hear that phrase, will you pray for me? I hear, do you see me? When I hear that phrase, will you pray for me? I hear, do you hear my pain? Just a couple days ago, I wrote this because I've thought a lot about it. I think social media is filled with lament. I'm now at a place where I see posting on social media as a practice of lament. We talked about that last week as a practice of lament. Mine's running. I think just posting online is an actual practice of lament. Where my concern is that I wonder if we're so screaming and yelling our beliefs and positions at each other that it's gotten so loud we cannot actually hear the pain within each other. And so when someone comes to me and they say, will you pray for me? The question is, do you hear my pain? Do you see my pain? Or sometimes I'll hear this, will you pray for me? And what I hear is, am I alone in this? So it's one of the greatest questions. And I want you to know what you have in this story is immediately you have this image and this group of people going on behalf of Jesus. So like one of the greatest privileges of all time is when someone says that. And what I'm saying is, yes, I will. Now, prayer looks a lot different for me now than it used to, but I'm agreeing with you. Yes, I will pray for you. Now, here's what perhaps this could mean. Prayer can be a way to sit with others in their pain and not try to fix them. Prayer can be a way of letting others know they're not alone. Prayer can be a way to help lift the load that others are carrying. Prayer can be an act of showing up for others. Prayer can be another way of saying, I love you. I see you. I hear you. I'm with you. I've got you. I'm for you. And whatever you're walking through, we will walk through together. Now, that's something I could get into. I don't know about televangelist and evangelical notions of prayer, but that kind of prayer I want in my life. The one that reveals solidarity, not just solutions. A prayer like of people coming alongside you going, whatever it is you're facing, you're not going to face that alone. Now, all that said, the men go on his behalf, and what they're saying to this Roman soldier is, we've got you. We see you. We hear your pain. We've got you covered. They go to Jesus, and they persuade Jesus, because I would imagine Jesus, maybe he had a few things on the agenda. I don't think he kept a calendar. I don't know. Maybe he had a personal assistant. Maybe that's what one of the disciples were. Like, well, Jesus, what you got on the docket day? Well, we need to heal 13 people about 3 o'clock, but then 4 o'clock, we got a small window we can, you know what I mean? And I think he comes, and this group comes, but it is interesting. It's almost like they try to persuade him because what they say to Jesus is, well, you know, he's a good man, basically is what, he's a good man. He built a synagogue for us. My hunch is that even Jesus, hang with me because I know he's off limits. Even Jesus was fully human. And even Jesus was a product of his own culture. And even Jesus was conditioned by his culture. This is why he calls one Gentile a dog in a passage, all right? Yes, your Savior, all right? Now, all of that said, I would assume Jesus had some reservation about helping out a Roman soldier. In all his inclusivity, I would imagine that wasn't the easiest task. These are the very people who are about to slaughter him, all right? They are oppressing his people, and all of a sudden you've got one needing help, right? That, that is the definition of unconditional love. Whew. I tell people this all the time. Man, I'm here, hear me. There are people who have been brought into my life, and they are here, and they have become my greatest teachers because they are here to teach me what unconditional love actually looks like. And it's like this group of people, they're persuading him. No, really, he's one of the good ones. Come on. And Jesus starts making his way. All right, I'll go. Guess we got some free time. He starts making his way. And about the time he makes his way, word gets back to the Roman soldier. And the text says the Roman soldier gets word back to him and says, whoa, stop. Whoa, stop. So there's this dynamic at play. God, there's probably far more in this than I'm even able to see. But there's a dynamic at play between this back and forth. And the Roman soldier says, tell him to stop. Tell him not to come. It's almost like he starts coming because he wanted it, but then he was like, oh my God, Jesus is about to come to my house. Like my house. I don't think I'm ready for that. Just kidding. We don't need you. Just stay where you are. But then the Roman soldier displays a faith that Jesus says, I wish the Israelites had what this Roman soldier has. Talking about backwards. Talk about messed up. It's not right. He's a Roman soldier. It's not right. Listen to this guy. And he says, and this is what the Roman soldier says. He said, tell him not to come. Tell him not to come. But when he was not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to say to him, Lord, don't trouble yourself. Listen to this. For I am not worthy to have you come under my roof. Therefore, I did not presume to come to you. But out of the mouth of the enemy, but only speak the word, and my servant will be healed. Okay, this is where we start teaching. Just say the word. Jesus, you don't have to come. Say the word. They'll be healed. Now, here's why this is so profound. Luke sets himself in complete opposition to the magical view of faith in his time. What I mean by that is, in the first century, what you had was a requirement that if someone were to be healed, they were healed by touch. So you have this kind of magical moment in the narrative where you have a Roman soldier saying, actually, let's just really complex the healing process here. I don't even need you to come touch this person. I believe there's so much power that all you've got to do is say the word, and I think this person can be healed. There is significance in the distance here. It's like Luke is wanting us to see the distance. In antiquity, miraculous healings were thought to be possible only through direct contact. You can see this in Luke 5:17. You can see this in Luke 6:19. Direct contact was how people were healed. What you have in this narrative, in this moment, is a Roman soldier saying, well, let's just disrupt that system too. I actually don't think you have to have direct contact. I think there's enough power in your word. This person can be healed. Now, Luke is playing on the distance. He also goes into an analogy. What he wants you to see is that there are power in our words. He wants you to see there is power in the words of Jesus. There is power in word, period. He even gives us the image as a military officer who knew the power of words. He knew the power of a command given by Caesar. He knew the power of getting regular orders from a commander. Likely his chief was in Caesarea about 50 miles away, so there wasn't direct contact, but word would get out to the Roman soldier. When the Roman soldier was told to do something, he obeyed the orders. There were power in the command. And it's like he's giving you that image for a reason. Luke wants you to see. He recognizes the power in words. He's saying power does not require a physical presence. That words themselves have a power. And I would just say writer James isn't far from that. He gets it too. He says words have the power to kill or the power to heal. You know this, right? You know every word you say has power. It does. You may think, you may feel like the most powerless person in this room, but I want you to know if you're able to speak in here, you have more power than you realize. And every word you say has power. Words have the power to kill or the power to heal. Words have the power to diminish, and words have the power to lead to human flourishing. Words have the power to create heavens, and words have the power to create hell. Words have the power to create life, and words have the power to create death. You might ask, well, how is that possible? Can we talk about physics for just a minute? Now, I'm not going too long because I don't know anything about physics. I didn't study that. I'll tell you what I studied, God, all right? Don't know why I found that so funny, but I do. And I did. And they told me I was a master. I'm like, first of all, that word, we should probably leave that behind. But that's still in the education system. They gave me a master's of divinity. If that is not the most arrogant diploma you could possibly get. Oh, what did you graduate in? Oh, I mastered divinity. Whoa. Wow. Strong. I know. Only took me 70 grand, but I mastered it. I did. Now, let me talk about physics for just a minute. Everything is made of energy. All right, we know this in physics now. Everything is made of energy. All energy creates vibrations at different frequencies, okay? So when we speak a word, it vibrates at a certain frequency. We're talking about physics, okay? This is not psychology, this is physics, all right? When you speak a word, there is energy in that word, and that energy vibrates at a certain frequency. Now, to get really crazy, we're all made of energy. The chair you're sitting in, if you boiled it down, is energy. This is why you hear the gurus talk about we are actually all one, okay? Because we actually are all one. Now, we're in this form, but your form is relying on the energy in that form. But at the end of the day, if you die, which you will, some of you will be buried. So some of you have already decided, you're like, put me 6 feet under. I want the full traditional experience. I want the bagpipes. Okay, great. Some of you are like, I want to be cremated. My wife, I want to be cremated. Okay, not a problem. We can do that. Okay, cremation. Here's the thing. All of it inevitably goes back to energy. All right? All of it. Because it's all made of it. It is the substance of it. It is the energy. Now, here's what I find really fascinating, okay? If that's true, okay, then there's some other things that we need to know about this energy. First, your heart generates an electromagnetic field that reaches several feet outside of your physical body. Okay, we know that. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field that reaches several feet outside of your physical body. So sometimes you're like, whoo, I didn't even know someone's behind me, but I could feel them. You done that before? Yeah, of course you could. Yes. There is an energy. You can't see it, but there is an energy there, right? Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever met someone and you knew they were angry without them saying a word? How are they able to communicate that? Through their presence. The answer is power. Our thoughts and intentions and feelings all are levels of energy, and energy has power. Now, I want to make a point, and I'm going to get to it, but let me share a story with you first. Every prayer we pray involves a flow of energy. I don't even mean that from like a supernatural, spiritual, like God level. I mean that from a physics level. If we are all walking energy, moving energy, creating vibrations, then that means every word we speak has energy. Also, I would back it up, even our intentions have energy. And when that energy is sent, it creates an actual vibration. All right, we're talking physics here. Now, pause there. Let me share a story with you. I was in some deep therapy. It's been years ago, and haven't been in deep therapy since. So we're like, yeah, we knew that. I was in some deep therapy. It's been some time ago. And I mean, deep therapy, I shared this with you all where I have what I call my internal universe glasses. Have you heard about these? They're basically just like sleeping mask, but I keep them beside my bed, and I call them my internal universe glasses. So I put them on, and I go inside the internal universe. That's what I do. I try to make it a regular practice, call it meditation, call it practice of lament, call it whatever you want. But I was in a deep therapy session. I was trying to work through, I had like debilitating anxiety, and I don't use that word lightly at all. Like I couldn't move from my couch. And I was like, we've got to get some help. I got to figure out what's going on in here. So I put the glasses on. I was with just a ninja therapist. And he was like, I got you. You're good. You're not going alone. You're going to go deep. You're going to take a deep dive down inside of you. Don't worry. Don't fear. And I was scared because I was like, well, what am I going to find down there, right? Because I grew up in the church, and I was just convinced. I knew, like, I'm gonna get down there, and Satan will be down there, right? Like I just knew, pitchfork, horns, like, hey, how's it going, right? Welcome, you're the Antichrist. You know what I mean? Like no, like I didn't want to see any of it. Dragons, I'm like, I don't want to get into that, all right? But I had to go into the subconscious. Now, there are lots of ways that you can open those doors. We'll talk about that a whole nother sermon. But for me at this point, I found this is the most effective way. So I go internal. Now, when I get inside of me, I realize I feel as though I'm floating in a sea of gratitude. Just gratitude. And that was actually surprising, to be honest. Because I was dealing with some anxiety, so I thought I'd get in there, and the closer I got to it, I thought it would just increase till I go into a full-blown panic attack. But I get inside of me, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's like really chill in here. Which surprised me, because I don't feel like it's chill out here. But internally, I was like, well, look at this. And then it felt like I was just, I felt like I was just kind of doing, and I'm talking breathing, like my coach is doing breathe, like, there's a way to breathe at a certain pace where you can almost like put yourself in an altered state. Like, I'm deep into this stuff, all right? Like, and I'm just like breathing, I'm trying to do my thing, and then, so it's like you have the external, but I'm inside, and then I get in there, and it was like, I was just like, whoa, hold on just a second. Can I just float? You ever just floated on a raft before? Like, you ever been to a pool and there's just like a little pool float and you're like, don't bother me today? There's got music going and you're like, oh, yes. Like just sit. That's what it kind of felt like. But it was like, every time I put my hand in the water, it was like just gratitude. I mean, just grateful. Some of you were just popping up. I'm like, look at that. Yeah. Some of you, I don't even know your name, but your image popped up. I'm like, huh, amazing. And I had a moment where I just wanted to express my gratitude. And this is internally, this is what's going on. And I'm just kind of floating around inside of me and going, well, how do I do that? And then images of you all, certain people in here, started popping up. And then people that have just influenced my life. The Buddha. I didn't grow up Buddhist. I will tell you this. The Buddha, his story came into my life at such a beautiful time. It's really profound. It really is profound. You talk about beauty, truth, and goodness wherever it's found. There's some beauty, truth, and goodness in Buddhism, all right? The Buddha popped up, and I was like, hey, can I talk to this is literally, I said this to my coach. Can I talk to the Buddha? And my coach said, this is your world, bud. You can talk to whoever you want. That's what he said. And I kind of chuckled. Like the humor was still in me down there. I was like, I guess I can talk to the Buddha. And then I said, well, Mr. Buddha, thank you. There's a whole story about you finding out about death and illness, and it impacted my life. Thank you. The Buddha just slips off. One by one. It's like people were lined up, one by one. It's like a little projector in a movie screen. Some of your faces were popping in. Some were, well, look at that. Some were very surprising. Joel Osteen showed up. Truth. Joel Osteen. Pastor Joel, I don't even know the church, somewhere in Texas. I've told you this before, but Joel Osteen showed up. There he was. So help me God, he has not changed from that same suit. He was there. He was there. He had his perm. He was doing his thing. I'm here for it, all right? I'm here for it. And there he was. And I swear to you, he had the biggest grin. Joel Osteen always has the biggest grin on his face. I don't know that that's fake. I'm also like, well, of course he's grinning. That man has more money. Anyways, I'm just like, he's grinning going, we fooled them all, didn't we? All right, I'm like, boy, okay. Anyways, but he's grinning, and God, I love this church. I love that I can say that, and I'm not fired on Monday. You know what I'm talking about? Like, y'all make me so happy, all right? We say it all. One day we will get in lots of trouble, but I'll own that when we get there, all right? But he's just smiling. And I remember, I don't ever listen to him, but some weird thing, somehow he's impacted my life. I don't even know how, but I was just like, thanks, Joel. And Joel just walked off. Kent Dobson, who will be here next week, he popped in. My in-laws popped in. My parents. Boy. You feel the tear roll down that mask. It comes down, and it wasn't painful. It was sheer gratitude. Have my parents done everything right? No. Have yours? No. But I will say this: I think they did the best with what they had, and I'm grateful. I was like, Mom, Dad, I don't know if you can hear this, but thanks. It occurred to me while I'm doing this, oh my God, it occurred to me, you're praying. Like, what do you mean? You're praying. You are sending your energy by your words to someone else. Katie pops up. My wife of 20 plus years, she pops up. And there was just I've told her this isn't new. There was an overwhelming sense of perfect love. And when I use that phrase, I'm borrowing it from the Johannine community when it says perfect love drives out fear. I've said this before, so I don't say things publicly that I don't say privately. All right, I don't want to be that guy that I'm up on a stage going, my wife is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then, you treat people like trash behind the scenes. She can vouch for this, and my wife would be the first to stand up right now and be like, you're full of it, get off the stage, all right? But I will tell you, Katie is the greatest evidence of original goodness that I have in my life. I often wonder about original sin, and sometimes I meet people that are the greatest evidence for original sin. Politicians, okay. But then Katie comes along, and she's the greatest evidence of original goodness that I've ever experienced. And there's an overwhelming sense of love. And all of a sudden, I really start going, I want her, because Katie, she's built, like if you know the Enneagram world, she's built in a way that she is the loyalest human on the planet and will serve you even if it hurts her. Like and that is to her detriment sometimes. And so I'm trying to help her, like, hey, let me teach you my ways. I say no. I don't care. Right? And so we help each other, because she's like, you could have a little more compassion. I'm like, nope, I'm good. Right? Like, yeah, I know, isn't it weird? But that's how you brought together. That's how it works. And so Katie's there, and I say, Katie rarely is the energy reciprocated back. And that's a part of a relational dynamic that we'll talk about soon. If you have a relationship, a relational consumer, where it feels like all you do in the relationship is give, 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 watch this. Pull back and see if they give back. If they don't, just be aware that it's not a giving and receiving relationship. And so sometimes you just have to walk away from a relationship because it's too taxing. It's too draining. You've heard that before? Yes. Yes. And with Katie, I'm like, it seems like she's always giving. I was like, I want her to receive. And so in my little thing, what I'm doing, I'm like, I say this out loud, how can Katie feel this? And my guide said, well, yeah, she can feel it. It's energy, it's vibration. Yeah, she can feel it. So I lift up my hand in this session, and I want to create an energy and vibration, and I move it toward her direction. Now, I have a mask on. I'm in a therapy room. I don't even know where she's at. I do know she dropped me off there, and I know she was out somewhere close by, probably buying shoes. I don't know, like out there, like doing her thing. I love it because Katie's like, that's how you reciprocate. You do it through shoes, all right? I'm like, I don't know, maybe we have enough. I don't know, 2 closets now. Okay, she loves some shoes, all right? Like, she loves fashion, and I appreciate it. I think it's amazing. All right, now, she's out, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, and I said this thing, I was like, wait, where is she? And I have this image pops up. Just hang with me. This is where it gets woo. The image pops up, and I just see Katie like in a field, green grass in a field. And I just see her sitting there. And it's like I'm just watching her. And this is just like a mental image, you know what I'm saying? Be like, you're just like thinking about something, but it kind of gets real clear. You're like, look at that. And I am crying. I'm just like, what? It's just like looking at sheer radiance, beauty, love, whatever that is, whoever that is for you. Or it could be an animal. It doesn't matter. Like there's something that you love deeply, like place it right there. And I'm like, God, like, what would life be like without that? You know what I mean? And it was so clear. And I just said, may she feel the gratitude I'm pushing her way. May she feel loved. May she feel peace. May she feel joy. I come out of my therapy session, and Katie walks in the door. And she's like, well, how'd it go? And I'm like, I don't even know how to tell you how it went, but you want to get some tacos? It's like, yeah. It's like, I got somewhere I need to show you anyways. I was like, okay. So we go get food. And she said, while you were in your session, she said, I've been really worried about you. She's like, this anxiety has been a lot. And it was a lot. Like, I considered quitting my job. I couldn't stand up here and speak publicly. I couldn't move. Like that kind of anxiety. And I remember she's saying, so while you were doing your thing, she said, I found a place. And she said, I played some of the music that you like. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. And then I was like, I wonder was she listening to Tupac? Like, how did that, the music I like. And then she said, and I just kind of wrote. And I guess she's got like this little journal thing or whatever. She said, kind of wrote. She said, and I was just kind of holding you. And then she takes me to this place, and we turn the corner, and she's like, here is where I was. And people, it was the exact place now I know, oh my God, I grew up churchy, and I used to watch televangelists, and it kind of gives me the creeps what I'm saying right now. All right, I'm 100% with you. Like, no, this is weird. Like, it as sure as my flesh and blood is in front of you, it was the exact place that I saw in my mind's eye. So much so, and I have never done this, I took my shoes off in that grass because I recognize, there's something happening here. Now, all grass is sacred grass, but this was like the first time I recognized all grass was sacred grass. And I took my shoes off and I started weeping. She's like, whoa, what's wrong? I mean, is there a problem with the taco? I'm like, no, it's good. And I asked her, I said, did you feel anything? She's like, yeah, I did, actually. I did. Now, let's just close right here. I say that to say this. Here's my understanding of prayer right now. At 42, having deconstructed my faith, here's my understanding of prayer. I believe prayer can be a way of directing our best energy, love, intention, well-being, hope, blessing, and goodness that we possess in the direction of another person. Okay? Our thoughts, intentions, feelings, and words all have power. When people are behind you, cheering you on, supporting you, you know it. You can feel it. Maybe what I'm starting to understand about prayer is perhaps prayer has always been more horizontal than it was ever intended to be vertical. And I don't think Jesus gave us this example just to show us how supernatural and powerful and spiritual Jesus is. I think in some strange way, maybe Jesus is trying to show us the capacity we have within our own bodies, within our own words, within our own prayer. I think Jesus is showing us what we already have the capability of within us. And I want to tell you, I think you have more power than you realize. I understand my social intersection. I understand where I stand. But I also understand this, that even to the most powerless person in this room, the one who feels the most powerless, I want you to know, I believe you have more power than you realize. And when I say that, I mean agency. I believe you have more agency than you realize. I believe you've underestimated just how powerful your intentions are, how powerful your words are. They affect things. And I want us to know as a church, as we're stepping into an election year, hear me, I'm just getting us prepared. Every word we say has power to create human flourishing or diminish human flourishing. And if you walk out of here today with one thing, I hope you walk out of here realizing that you are a more powerful human being than you realize. And even if you feel like no one cares or hears what you say, I want you to know what you do, what you say, what you intend, what you desire, all of that is producing energy, which is ultimately shaping the world we're in. So, can you feel prayer? I can. I've had people say to me, Pastor, I'm praying for you. There are moments where I can look back and go, I know, I could feel it. I've had people say, I'm praying for you. And I look back and go, please don't. Why? Have you ever had people say they're praying for you, but they don't say it with the good intention? They say it as in, I'm praying for you. There's a difference between I'm praying for you and I'm praying for you. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'll share this and we're done. We got to go. I was one time when I love you people. I love you people. One time when our church, years ago, when we were going through the whole thing. That's how we call it now, just the thing. You know, the big exodus that everybody's like, do you have to bring it up every Sunday? I'm still healing. Give me some grace. Still healing, but yeah. I would run into old church members like that left because they were like, LGBTQ, blah, you're a heretic. You know the thing. And one of them was probably the one who hurt me the most. He came down to my office one day and he knew some personal things about me, and he just, and I understand he did it out of his own pain. I see that now as high-level consciousness. At the moment, I did not see that, but he just took the Bible and he wrapped it around a dagger and went, you know what I'm talking about? And I was like, that was graphic enough for you, but you get the picture, right? And it's just like, I'm so dramatic. I got over myself, right? And it hurt. I've done a lot of therapy from this one individual in my life. It hurt deeply. Well, I found out we both, at the time, were members of the same gym. And so at like 7 in the morning, I would go to the gym. And back then, I wasn't going to the gym to work out. I'd go sit in the sauna, which is the best way to work out. Because you're like, got a full sweat. What'd you do? Nothing. And I'd go in the sauna, and there was always a bunch of old men in there. It was just me and a bunch of old men just sweating it out in the stuff, like Monday morning. And I looked over, and if that guy wasn't in there. And I'm like, oh, we're in hell now. You know what I mean? Like, this is it, just sweating. And I'm like, whoa. And I remember he regularly would run into me at the gym, and he'd say, I'm praying for you. I remember going, oh, I know. I can feel it. But I got to a point where I would say to him, I'm good, you don't have to. I say, use that energy towards someone who's ill or sick or in need, or I'm good. When God gets my attention and helps me see the world the way you see it, I will let you know. But I'm good. And then occasionally I have people that say, praying for you. Thank you. I feel that. So, I say this to you. Sometimes you'll hear me say this. I often won't say I'm praying for you, but you will hear this language from me. I'm holding you close to my heart this week. Do you know what that is? A prayer. You know what it is? I'm sending my best intentions, blessing, well wishes, that's energy I'm pushing your way. I'm holding you close by. Or you might even hear this phrase. This is one of my favorite phrases. I'll either say, I'm holding you close to my heart, or I will say something like, I'm carrying you with me this week. Or I'm carrying you today. Now, what I mean by that is, I hope you feel this, but everything within me, I'm trying to send you energy, and I hope you feel the vibration from that energy. I hope you feel it. Can you feel prayers? I do believe you can. Now, all of that said, I just want to say this. There are people in this room walking through things right now. I'm fully aware of it. I mean personal things. All over the place. I walked in this morning, and I know they come in. I watch you come in. Like, how's it going? I love that you're so brutally honest. Not good. Been a hell of a week. I'm like, okay. Beautiful. It's like you took lamenting very serious. You're like, not good. I'm like, awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here. All right. I know you're walking through some things. There's all kinds of things. I think about Jeff. Jeff, you've got this Thursday, right? Liver transplant? Kidney. Taking the kidney out. This Thursday. What time? Well, I'm not up at 6, but I will, but the night before, no, I'm kidding. Okay, so here's just an easy example. What if we did this? Just try it. Even if you're hearing like, I don't even believe in God, I'm an atheist, whatever. Okay, I get it, I do. I respect your honesty. But maybe you do believe in physics. So maybe if you're hearing like, I don't believe in God, but I believe in energy and vibrations. Great. Try this. What if we this week, Thursday, probably 6, maybe you jot a note down, Jeff. What if we all sent our best intentions, hope, love, peace? You ever hear me say something? Hey, let's send wisdom to the surgeons. You've heard this, right? Yeah, what am I doing? Just pushing some energy. And here's my thing. Jeff, what if what if we all collectively did that Thursday? And what if you rolled up in there like, let's do this? And the doctor's like, boy, he seems really joyful. Yeah, he's got energy. Something's happening within him. All right? So put that on your list. Many of you are going through things. Yes. If you communicate that to the collective, we can all do this together. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of practice I'm about. Now, I say all that to say this. Vinings Lake, may love, joy, grace, peace, comfort, wonder, and hope be with you today. May you come to see that you are more powerful than you realize. And may the energy, love, intention, hope, joy, and goodness that you possessed be directed toward those you encounter this week that need it most. And so when I say this, I mean this. Peace be with you. I feel that. We'll see you next Sunday.